This rain, you can see throughout, she's very careless most of the time, always drenched. Maybe can be a symbolic reference how she's kind of drenched in emotions and also drenched in independence. Why is she kind of always drenched in rain? Can be a symbol, right? Yeah. And also the movie is like very visually pleasing from the beginning to the end. Yeah. And you can see how this idea of country gentry is portrayed, right? So their house is kind of, it's not belonging to the middle class, but also not to the upper class. You can compare it with Darcy's house, which is like a mansion with all these statues in it, right? Yeah. And then again, you can see how miserable Darcy looks most of the time, right? He looks very miserable, kind of, very reserved. It's like he wants to convey what is in his heart, but he's unable to, like an introvert, kind of an ideal introvert. Yeah. And also you can see when it comes to Elizabeth, there are all these unrestrained laughs throughout the movie. She's not restricting her laughs. Yeah, all is laughing kind of in a very carefree manner. But the others do not do that, right? Specifically when it comes to Charlotte, her friend, yeah, and also Jane. We can exclude, of course, the younger ones because they are still young. But when it comes to this, maturity, yeah, women are not laughing like that. And also, can you remember Bingley once says that he's not a good reader? Can you remember? There's this conversation between Bingley. Did you watch it with subtitles, Reverence? Yeah. Yeah, okay. So it was very clearly stated once Bingley says that I'm not a good reader. He's talking with Elizabeth. Right? Yeah. So you can see at the party. Yes, Reverend. Exactly, at the party. So Elizabeth says that no, at the party, maybe during that conversation where there's Bingley's sister when Jane got sick. Yeah, at Bingley's mansion. Yeah, so they're talking, and you can see that again is this ideal gentleman. Men were also not expected to read, just to earn and to be posh, right? Just to exist, because they had this, income. It is like, just a passive earning. They did not have, to do much to earn. Already they had this income, right? So that idea. And then both men and women were not expected to have this intellectual conversation. Yeah. And also intellectual existence to read and, to do all this deep stuff. No. And then, but you can see Darcy is again different, right? Darcy is this intellectual person, not like Bingley. And also Bingley is this very outgoing personality, which was expected of these gentlemen. Yeah. And you can see how they talk about poetry. Can you remember? There's an instance, Darcy and Elizabeth talk about poetry. Bingley is also there, but he, doesn't take part of the conversation. Maybe he's not able to, right? Yeah. And also there's this very strong quotation by Elizabeth: only the deepest love will lead her to marriage, not wealth, because wealth is the only concern when it comes to marriage. But for Elizabeth, she kind of very realizes that. Yeah. So, and she then says, that's why I would die an old maid. It's like she's certain that she would not find true love. Yeah. And she is also very self-aware there, you can see. Very much of self-awareness. So when we refer to her mother, we discussed how she's not self-aware, right? Even about nerves. She doesn't have any issue with her nerves, but she always thinks that I am nervous and I have all these issues. Yeah. It's kind of far from being nervous as well. In a way, being nervous and also not only being nervous. It's like having these illnesses around the entire kind of nerve system. Yeah. And then when they are invited for dinner, Mrs. Bennet says, we are saved. Right? So it sums up, everything about the marriage discourse. Yeah. And can you remember there is this scene where they ask like one tree and then Elizabeth. Can you remember? Yeah. So just one tree and then Elizabeth is sitting near it, and also I think she's walking. So what do you think it is symbolic of, reverence? You can have your own interpretation, right? You can have 3 different interpretations as well. Maybe something totally different from my reading of it.
Although there are a lot of people, but feel loneliness.
Yeah, can be reverent. Yeah, exactly. So that's his interpretation. And yours would be?
Because she loved to stay quiet.
Yeah. Another interpretation. Yes, Reverend?
I am trying to remember.
Okay. So that scene was like there was this, lonely tree. I cannot remember whether it was raining or not. I think it was like very gloomy. Even though it is not very gloomy. Kind of a very dark shade of green. There's this one single tree, and Elizabeth is near that tree. Only Elizabeth. No one else. There's the tree and then the Elizabeth. Yes, again, can be reverent. And you can see that, right? Once she literally says, just leave me alone. Yeah. When that lady comes, yes.
There must be something.
Yeah. Okay, right. Right, okay, now it is reverent. So what I felt is, I personally felt it kind of symbolizes how she's different from the others. Yeah. So, that all the trees are alike, right? All the trees are kind of like together, but this tree is alone. So she's very different from the rest of the girls. Yeah. So that's what I personally felt, and your interpretations were equally good, right? Maybe she loves to be alone. Yeah, you can see that throughout. To be independent and also to be silent, even though she's not portrayed as a very silent character, her mind, right, can be silent, because all the other women, they are filled with this idea of marriage. Nothing else is in their mind, right? But Elizabeth is different. Yeah, you can see that. And yeah, and also you can see how Darcy becomes very nervous, right? Whenever he sees her, no matter how he criticizes her. And the clip that you have sent to the group, Reverend, yeah, it is very symbolic. So I didn't jot down that part because you have already discussed about it. Yeah, so again you can see he quickly stands up, right? Without a reason, he quickly stands up. Bingley doesn't do that, but he's kind of very much affected by Elizabeth. You can see that. Maybe that is like a coping mechanism, the fact that he criticizes her. Maybe he wants to be blind to his feelings. So there's this very kind of, we are going to discuss about that quotation today. The fact that he says that I don't even want to stand near her, something like that. Yeah, so she's not kind of up to my standard. Not exactly those words, but he says something like that. Maybe that's how he wants to cope with his feelings. Yeah, because he's unable to kind of hide his feelings towards her. He's trying to kind of sugarcoat it or something like that. Yeah, and then also, and when it comes to this Bingley's sister, I think you said that you hate her, right? Yeah, it's like her character is this typical lady of this higher upper class, very typical, very snobbish, right? Always thinks very highly about herself and also about Bingley. And she can be one of the main reasons why Bingley doesn't propose to Jane at the beginning. Yeah. And also throughout the movie, even you can see how she's very critical about Collins, right? Not about Collins, but because Colin is Elizabeth's cousin. Yeah. What sort of kind of relations do you have? Yeah, she literally says that. And then yeah, and also can you remember Darcy once says that if he's going to fall in love with a lady, this lover has to do extensive reading to win him. So he also expects a woman who reads, which is very kind of rare to find during that time. So you can see how kind of compatible they are. They're literally like soulmates, but this pride, the idea of pride is in between them, and also prejudice. Yeah, Pride and Prejudice is there. And also Elizabeth once asked, is pride a fault or a virtue? Can you remember? Once, I think it was during this conversation itself, whether it is a fault or else is it a virtue. Right? Yeah. Again, you can see different interpretations about the title itself, whether it is something negative or positive. Yeah. And then Darcy also once says, opinion once lost is lost forever. Yeah, so again it is his prejudice, right? So you can also argue pride is not only connected to Darcy, because Elizabeth is also very proud. You can see when she rejects Darcy, very proud. And also Darcy also has this prejudice, right? You can see that's why he says opinion once lost is lost forever. This is his initial argument, his foremost argument, what he says first. But then again it changes. Maybe his opinion about Elizabeth, he changes it. And yeah, and also there's this very humorous incident when Mrs. Bennet and the daughters visit Bingley's place, Bingley's mansion. Can you remember the way that the servant introduces them? Mrs. Bennet, Miss Bennet, Miss Bennet, Miss Bennet, and another Miss Bennet. And then, yeah, so those are like very humorous. How kind of, tiny shades of sarcasm are there, because it is not like another movie. So in another movie, you can have a lot of sarcasm. But here, the director is literally adapting a masterpiece, a novel kind of which is like a masterpiece, to theatre. So then it is kind of difficult to evoke sarcasm. And you can see how slightly they have done that. And also even at that time, your favorite character, Bingley's sister, right? So she is kind of being very sarcastic there. All the Bennets here, yeah, likewise, very kind of discriminative. And then the hand gesture that you mentioned, and yeah. And also Elizabeth once says how the estate is passed to Collins, not to them. She literally mentions wealth is not inherently kind of, it is passed to us, the poor ladies. So you can see the social structure. So wealth was not passed down to daughters, right? If they do not have a son, it is like absurd, right? So it will be passed to someone else's son. So Collins is their cousin, literally. So it will be passed down to Collins. And also you can see, that Collins, what do you think about Collins, Reverence? Can you remember Collins? This guy who wants to get married to Elizabeth, their cousin. Yeah. Yeah, the priest. Yeah. What do you think about his character? Because we won't be able to, read into these characters because we are only discussing the first 5 chapters. That's why I wanted to, discuss about the movie and the plot. Yeah. Specifically the fact that he is a Christian priest. Yeah.
He also tried to show something different,
Mm.
possibility.
Yeah.
as a priest cannot marry, but
Mm.
he want to get married.
I think, Reverend, in his case, he belongs to this category where the priests can get married. Yeah, there is such a category, and it was criticized a lot as well back at that time, because this is like a transition period. Earlier, the priests could not marry. Yeah, but then during this time, not all the priests, but there's this separate set. Yeah. And also it is kind of hilarious the way he tries to dance, right? Yeah.
And he feel jealous when Elizabeth and
Darcy, exactly, yes, he's very envious. And also the fact that he's a priest and also he's mocked at, reverence, what do you think about it? Yeah, he's mocked at, as in he's kind of subjected to sarcasm, reverend. Yeah, he becomes literally this laughing stock. You know that word, right? Yeah, laughing stock. Let me write it here. It is like when you are kind of subjected to sarcasm throughout, laughing stock. Oh, the pen is not very supportive. Laughing stock. So it's like you are subjected to, subjected to laugh, literally. Sarcasm. And what do you think it is symbolic of? He becomes this laughing stock, becoming this Christian priest. Because these priests are expected to be respected in the Christian community. But Austen is laughing at. And also we need to remember that she was the daughter of a priest. Right? Yeah. So something kind of, cannot be expected from such a person. Yeah. And also you can see that that means the fact that this priest has a daughter called Jane Austen means he also belonged to this category. The priests who can get married. Yeah. There are no like right and wrong answers. So on one hand he's a priest, right? And also he's laughed at. What is the connection? What does Austen kind of, what is she trying to do there? So
characteristic of normal people, ordinary people.
Yeah, on one hand, yes, Reverend. But you can see that Austen is laughing at him even in the movie. He tries to dance, right? And also he tries to talk to Darcy. Twice or thrice, I think, yeah. And also throughout. And Elizabeth is kind of, restricting her laugh. Yeah, when she's talking to him. If we think of the socio-political situation of this time, was it very positive towards Christianity, reverence? During this time, because during the dark period, the Middle Ages, which we discussed last semester, it was like very much controlled by the church and people are very much repressed. And then during this Renaissance period, again all these things were broken to an extent, but still the shades were there, right? Yeah. So then again you can see after that the church was kind of being in a way stronger during this period, and as writers they were attacking it. Christian religion, right? Yeah, you can see. So Collins can be symbolic of this Christian, you know, yeah, I would say institutional religion, yeah, church. So here you can see she's very brave being a daughter of this clergyman, right? She's attacking the church in a way. Yeah, that's why this almost is like this priest. He's becoming a laughing stock. Yeah, and also he can be symbolic of this idea, how even the priests were looking for marriage based on you know just just to have a wife. He once mentions that, I need to have a wife not because he loves Elizabeth, because can you remember to whom he proposes earlier? Not directly, but with the parents, he discusses something. Is it Elizabeth first or someone else? Yes, exactly, Reverend. It's Jane. Yeah, it's Jane. So you can see, right? He proposes to Jane first, as in, he asks for her hand, and then he literally proposes to Elizabeth, and then gets married to Charlotte, Elizabeth's friend. So there you can see how hilarious is that. So not looking for a lover, because he's not in love with any of them. He just, yeah, Reverend.
Because as soon as Elizabeth
Exactly, as soon as Elizabeth rejects. I don't think even like 30 minutes were gone, right? Yeah. And then Charlotte comes and says, then Charlotte is also, Charlotte can be seen as this opportunistic character in a way. She literally says that I'm just looking for financial stability. Yeah, and there are all these family members, I need to look after them, so that's why I'm agreeing. So love is not there, as in you cannot see love throughout the movie except for Darcy and Elizabeth. Even when it comes to Jane develops this love towards the end. Bingley also does that, but initially, even in Jane's eyes, it is because Bingley is wealthy, right? If Bingley was, a beggar, she won't love him. But if Darcy was a beggar, Elizabeth would love him. Yeah, that is the difference that the movie is trying to depict. Yeah. So Collins can be identified as this laughing stock which aims Christianity. It is a direct criticism of Christianity. Reverence, right? Because she wanted to criticize it. Maybe, yeah, you can write it down if you want. As a direct criticism of Christianity. Collins. And also of this specific Christian, I would say, this set of people, set of priests reference, right? Because that even during that time priests were expected to take care of these religious duties, but they were also looking for marriages. Yeah, that is criticized here. You can see that, because they are interested in all this worldly stuff, wealth. And also you can see Collins' house is also like not a mansion, but a very wealthy house, kind of like institutional religion. Also priests being interested in worldly matters, that is also criticized. And also, okay, you may write down reference. And can you remember Collins once refers to Elizabeth as a very good alternative? Right, just like an option, because he lost the best option, which is Jane. So she would be a good alternative, right? Kind of like the second option. And then because she rejects him, he settles for the third option. Yeah. And can you remember the way that Darcy looks at Wickham? Wickham, this character, can you remember? The soldier. Yeah, who doesn't get married but who's forced to get married to Lydia. Yeah, Wickham. So even we discussed about this story behind Wickham and Darcy's sister. Yeah, and also you can see what sort of a gentleman Darcy is there. He could have kind of literary criticized, kind of a face-to-face argument with Wickham, but he doesn't kind of, I would say, harm Wickham's honor as well. And also, he doesn't kind of, I would say, harm his own honor. Right? So, it is very kind of respectable there, the way that Darcy behaves. Not kind of disrespecting or harming each other's honor, but again being very well aware what is he going to do. And also when it comes to Wickham, he's like this fake gentleman, right? Yeah.
He present Darcy
Elizabeth
as a
very bad character. That's what I was going to mention, Reverend, right? So that is very kind of pathetic when we see it. And also, even though as the audience, even if you are not aware of Wickham's true character, we can see that he is wicked. Yeah, so his nature is wicked, and also you can see, as Reverend said, he is kind of giving this very bad, very negative picture about Darcy to Elizabeth. Maybe he was also after Elizabeth, we are not sure, but can be, right? Yeah.
From that scene, Elizabeth also
Yeah, kind of, yeah. And also you can see Elizabeth's mind is totally manipulated by Wickham. As in, not kind of, she is in love with Wickham, but that she becomes very bitter towards Darcy after that talk. She believes what Wickham says. Yeah. And also the fact that Darcy is very silent and reserved and looks to be proud, because of that, Elizabeth has her own reasons to have that idea, because Darcy is not a very expressive person. Yeah. And you can see how she's kind of manipulated to see Darcy through Wickham's eyes, not her own eyes. Again, the readers are presented with this idea, the kind of the danger of seeing something through others' eyes. Yeah, not through our own eyes. Sometimes we are also forced to do that, right? Not by people, but by the society. Yeah, we look at things through others' eyes, not in our own eyes. Yeah. And again, Reverends, you can see Elizabeth once says Wickham is twice the man Darcy is. What do you think is the idea there? Wickham is twice the man Darcy is. So during this moment, No, Reverend, exactly. In a metaphorical way. That's what she wants to say metaphorically, right? Wickham is twice the man Darcy is. So, at this moment, do you think Elizabeth has a very good picture of Darcy? When we are discussing about this moment, no, right? She literally hates Darcy. Yeah. So, then you can see what is the idea. Twice the man Darcy is. That means Wickham is... Yeah, it's like Reverend Wickham is even more dangerous or even more negative than Darcy. That's the idea Elizabeth has. So that means Elizabeth can read characters. She fails when she tries to read the character of the man she loves. That's another story. But when it comes to Wickham, she reads him. So now she identifies Darcy to be this very negative, proud, rough character, and then she thinks Wickham is twice the man Darcy is. That means Wickham is even more bad than Darcy. Yeah. So you can see how she reads characters there. She's blind to her own feelings about Darcy, not to anything else, but about Darcy. So she doesn't acknowledge that she loves him. Secretly she loves him, but she doesn't know about that. Even she is not aware of that. As the audience we can see it, but she is not aware. Yeah, and also the same applies to Darcy. Darcy is also in love with Elizabeth, but he is kind of aware than Elizabeth, because can you remember towards the end he says the past months have been a torment for me. Yeah, kind of like a torment. It's like the torment, right? Like this physical suffering. Yeah, physical and mental suffering both. It's like this strong suffering for me. That means he has always loved Elizabeth. Yeah, and he doesn't want to show it. So that's his issue. That's his pride. And in Elizabeth's case, it's prejudice. She thinks that she hates Darcy, but inside she loves him. Yeah. And also Darcy is noticing and following at this moment. And literally, he asks for this dance. And Darcy is not a man who dances, can you remember? Even, at the beginning, he doesn't like dancing. But then with Elizabeth, he does that, because that is the only way that people could connect back at that time. Yeah, dance was the moment, kind of like, the balls and all these social gatherings. Yes. And then you can see how they talk while dancing. Darcy and Elizabeth, can you remember? All the others just dance, but they talk, they converse with each other, both of these characters. And also it's very funny because Darcy is the silent character, and he literally asks Elizabeth, do you always talk while dancing? Is it like a habit? Yeah, because Elizabeth is not this silent lady, because ladies were expected to be silent back at that time. And also Darcy asking Elizabeth to dance at that point can be out of jealousy, because she has danced with Collins earlier. Yeah, can be because of envy. Yeah, maybe not that he acknowledges that he loves Elizabeth, but he cannot kind of stand to see her with another man. Yeah, maybe that idea. How they kind of hide their true feelings. And yeah. And also Bingley marrying Jane as identified by Mrs. Bennet as an opportunity for the other daughters to throw themselves at rich men. She literally uses these words, and you can find it here. And the fact that I ask you specifically to watch this movie, because the quotations are almost the same. Yeah, it's like very similar and exactly copied and pasted. And that is really good, because you get a good idea about the plot, even though you don't have time to read the book. So here, this idea of throwing on rich men, right? Literally, you are throwing your daughters or throwing yourself, at rich men. And you can see what is father's reaction to Lizzie marrying Collins. Can you remember? This is very nice dialogue. Mother criticizes Elizabeth as headstrong, foolish child. And she says that, you could have saved the family by marrying Collins. Yeah, so she wants Elizabeth to marry Collins, not because, not because of anything, but because of, securing the financial position of the family. What do you think? Can you remember this moment, reference? It is okay if you don't remember, right? I'm asking if you remember. So mother wants Elizabeth to get married to Collins, but father's reaction, does he like it or not? He doesn't like it, and there he says this very beautiful quotation: you are going to lose one of your parents if you even if you agree to this marriage or not. if you disagree to this marriage, you are going to break the heart of your mother. And if you agree to this marriage with Colin, I'm not going to talk with you. You are going to lose your father. Yeah, so it's like, that he's always considerate about Lizzie's feelings. That's why I told you, even if she stayed unmarried throughout her life, he would have been okay with it. Elizabeth being unmarried, right? It's because he knows that Elizabeth is very different character, very independent, and not all men were okay with women being independent that time, and he knew that. Yeah, and here he knows that if she gets married to Collins, it's going to be a living hell, because Collins is very difficult character. Yeah, very difficult to handle, right? Very headstrong. Yeah, very rude, very direct, and also very odd reference, right? Very strange. Yeah, you cannot predict what he would do. Very odd. Yeah, and also, can you remember when Collins proposes? Can you remember what Elizabeth does? She literally runs away. So it is symbolically running away from marriage. Yeah, not just running away. Yeah. Running away from this. You need to watch the movie again. No, you don't need to. You have watched it kind of, a week ago, I guess. I just wanted to go through this because, it kind of, there are very beautiful symbols in the movie. And also, because we do not have time to go through the whole book, we can get an idea about the plot when we discuss the movie. That's why I wanted to do that. And then, yes, and also, if Mr. Bennet thought about the family's financial condition, so his first choice would have been Collins at the beginning, because Collins proposes Elizabeth. He would also have kind of forced Elizabeth, but he doesn't do that. So it shows Mr. Bennet's character, very different father, not the father who lived back at that time. Yeah, and then and also Charlotte says this: not all of us can afford to be romantic. Yeah, it's not like that. It's very tragic in a way. It's not like that Charlotte doesn't want to be romantic. She says, yeah, not all of us can afford to be. What do you mean by this word afford, Reverend? Something is affordable means? Yeah, as in you can purchase it. Yeah, you have the ability. Yeah, you have the opportunity to have it. But here she says, I do not have the opportunity to be romantic. Right? Yeah. Given her, financial condition and all these, no men would come for her, for romance. So then she's kind of, taking this opportunity literally. So these characters are portrayed as very tragic in a way, Reverence, right? Yeah, not exactly opportunistic. They are opportunistic, true. But again, as the poem that you discussed that day, the society has made them opportunistic. Even Mrs. Bennet. Society has made them to be such characters. And can you remember Lizzie says no to all, can be piano, can be drawing. They're not very competent with all this. What do you think are these characteristics? These piano playing and drawing. What are these?
At that time, people expected
Exactly.
ladies should be.
Yeah, ladies had to be competent in all these, Reverend. Very good, a very good observation. Yeah, so there you can see, Reverends, right, how Elizabeth is, she doesn't want to possess all these qualities. She just wants to read.
And
Yeah,
she said directly, without any.
exactly, without any shame, right? Yeah, so if you are kind of not able to play the piano, that is kind of like very it's a shame literally, but she is not shy about it at all. She says that I'm not capable of it, and she can play the piano but not much. She accepts it, and also she takes this challenge as well to play the piano. And also I think that lady is kind of subjected to more hatred than Bingley's sister, Reverend. Yeah, the elderly lady, very toxic, kind of a very toxic person, very discriminative. Yeah, and then Yes, she's belittling Lizzie throughout. And also she's asking whether you never had a governess. Discussed about this idea of governess. Only wealthy families could keep a governess. So a governess is usually from the middle class. You can see that with Jane Nair, how she's from the middle class, and then she kind of, she's behaving as this governess who's from this middle class. And then yes, this idea of running in the rain, Reverend, we kind of discussed it, how rain can be symbolic of maybe emotions, passion, right, and also independence. And she's always running, right? Yeah. And then this prejudice of Bingley, right? So she gets this idea that Darcy is the one who has kind of, objected this marriage, yeah, between Bingley and Jane. So it is not actually possible, that people from this upper class, they do not get married to a person of kind of a lower ranking. So there's this idea of lower rank and lower birth throughout the movie. Yeah. And Darcy is against this marriage, not because of this, lower birth or lower marriage concept, but because Jane is also very silent. She's not showing her emotions. Yeah. So then they also think, she's not in love with Bingley, but they are very opportunistic to grab Bingley, to grab his wealth. That is the idea. That's why Darcy is against it. Again, that is kind of, very fair. Right, Reverends? The comment, because, that he doesn't want his friend to get married to a woman who's after his wealth, not loves him. So he misreads Jane there. So you can see that it's not only the prejudice or the misreading about Darcy and Elizabeth. Darcy has this misreading about Jane as well. Bingley also has that. Because Jane, even though initially it is about his wealth, towards the end of the book, you can see, and also in the middle, even in the movie, Jane is falling in love with Bingley. Yeah, it's not just because of his wealth. So throughout this idea of prejudice, so if you are asked to write a question about Pride and Prejudice, how they are depicted in the book, you can refer to both, all these characters. So all of these people have this prejudice about Darcy. We will read this today, right? When we go through this second chapter or third chapter, all the people start hating Darcy. Even though he's this nice character, it is not shown. He appears to be proud. Yeah. And then and also, can you remember when she rejects Darcy in the rain? That scene in the rain, it's like one of the most famous scenes of the movie, the proposal in the marriage. And also you can see that Darcy is being very nervous there, right? It is very difficult for him to speak. He's literally struggling to speak there. And also somehow he conveys it, but the way that he conveys it is even more problematic, despite the lower rank of your birth, right? So such things should not be uttered in a marriage proposal, but he's not aware. It is very difficult for him to converse because he's introvert, and that is something psychological. That's why I told you that you can read this as a psychological novel about the psychological habits of people, right? Yeah. And also there are times that even when we kind of think, that if we kind of convey something and later we think, no, I could have said it better. Marriage when they were very young, when we consider 15 is not much of a young age, right? Yeah, not youth. So literally like a child bride. And then this idea of writing, as in how again Darcy is well aware of his character. He knows that he won't be able to converse this much with Elizabeth. If he kind of spoke about all these things, he won't be able to convey all this. That's why he's writing. Kind of a sophisticated city with her uncle and auntie. Yeah. And then Elizabeth is against it. Can you remember? Because she is very careless. Lydia is this very careless person. So she would kind of fall in trouble. We wouldn't let, do that. And there you can see again the father is very, I would say, he's allowing these girls to be independent. right? He knows that Lydia can fall in trouble. He knows that, but he's not restricting her freedom. Unlike the usual father character, the father figure that you have in this time, even when Elizabeth is against it, father is being very kind of carefree about it. It is okay. She can go, that idea. And then, can you remember there's this scene where Lizzie is crying at night? Can you remember, Reverence?
Sorry, Miss.
Lizzie is crying at night.
Is she crying?
Yeah, Elizabeth is crying. She's not even showing her tears to Jane, who's sleeping next to her. She's crying. So you can see how she kind of, copes with herself. Yeah. So usually women were expected to cry out loud, right? Yeah. And also out loud in the sense not to kind of hide their feelings, the weaker feelings like sadness, right? Yeah. So they were expected to be kind of, to be sensitive. That is okay, but Elizabeth doesn't want to show this sensitive side of her, even to her family, even to the sister who's very close to her, right? So even I can remember that there's this moment where Elizabeth identifies Jane as the closest sister, the sister who's most dear to me, when she talks with Darcy, yeah, referring to Bingley's marriage, yeah, she says this. So even if to this person who's most dear to her, she doesn't want to show her true feelings, her weaknesses, because crying is identified as a weakness by Elizabeth, yeah. And also there's this moment of light. Elizabeth is almost like dreaming, and there's this very strong light. It can be symbolic of awareness, reverence, right? Because she starts to become aware of Darcy, his true actions, because Darcy is the person who literally saves their family, right? Asking Wickham, not asking, forcing Wickham to get married to Lydia. And also regarding Bingley and Jane, and also he's very considerate about everything. He treats them equally. When Elizabeth visits this house, can you remember what sort of a house does Darcy has, reverence? Yes, almost like a castle, right? Maybe we can call it a mansion. Yeah, not exactly a castle, but kind of down castle, but not a house, right? Yeah, not a house, kind of a almost like a mansion. Yeah, so very rich. So even today we will discuss how he is even more wealthy than Bingley. Bingley has around 4,000 a year, I guess, but Darcy has 10,000 a year. So very rich. And also there's this lake, right? Very, yeah, very well kind of, well groomed paths and all these things. Yeah. So it is very clear that they belong to two classes which cannot mingle with each other even by a marriage. So such marriages did not happen during that time. Marriages were also happening within the class. If it is upper class, that's it. That's why even Bingley's and Jane's marriage is kind of, it is out of the scene, reverence. Yeah, that is not something that can happen. Even though no matter how Mrs. Bennet wants it to happen, so marriages between two different classes. And yeah, what do you think about this idea of this statue with a covered face? Can you remember? There was this statue, a beautiful statue, only the face, and it was covered. Darcy's house, yes, Reverend, exactly. What do you think is the symbol there? A statue is there, and then the face is covered. Yes. Yeah, not Darcy's statue, Reverend. Even Darcy's statue is there. Elizabeth is very, romantically looking at it. Yes. Despite her feelings. Yes. And at this point, she knows what he has done. Yeah. But to an extent again. Not all. Not about Bingley and Jane. Yeah. That's where at that place is the moment that where she gets to know about Lydia's fate, that she has, run away with Wickham. And at this moment, she knows Darcy has already conveyed what Wickham has done to his sister. So she knows about Wickham, and now she knows that what Wickham told her about Darcy is incorrect. Yeah, she knows that. And also, you can see that even with all this wealth, Elizabeth's mind does not change. She's not going to, go after Darcy, even when after she has seen all this wealth. Yeah. And also this idea, so this covered face, Reverend, what do you think? You can take it as a symbolic face of Darcy, even though it is not Darcy's statue. You can see how Darcy's true face is covered, right? In a way, yeah, because we do not know what is inside, right? We are not shown. Maybe that is also one of Darcy's statues of Darcy's face. We do not know, but you can see how the face is covered. So very strong symbolism throughout the movie. So director has done wonders, and also the screenplay is very strong, very beautiful. And then and also then she's exposed to his face. So again, that can be symbolic. She's going to be exposed to his true character. Yeah, even though it was covered up to now the veil is, unveiled. Yeah. So this idea of veiling and unveiling you would get a lot in Victorian novels, because some of the women were expected to cover their faces. The kind of the upper class ladies, expected to cover the face. It is not compulsory, like in this Islamic religion, not compulsory, but it was like a class marker in a way, right? Yeah. And then and also it is very funny when this auntie and uncle asks her, do you know Mr. Darcy? How much do you know? What does she say, Reverend? Can you remember her reply? That is okay. So she says, I know a little. Yeah, that is very kind of, ironic, because Darcy has expressed everything in that letter. Yeah, so he talks about how he is an introvert, how it is difficult for him to converse. So he has kind of, told so much about him to Elizabeth. Maybe he has not conveyed all this to anyone else, even to Bingley. All these things. So it's like, she knows almost, not all, but she knows so much of Darcy's secrets. But she says, I know only a little. That is very ironic, right? Yeah. And then, can you remember what happens when she sees Darcy? So Darcy is, kind of holding his sister. You can see there's this very dear bond between Darcy and his sister. Yeah, even though he's reserved, he's showing his true character. Maybe she's the one who's more kind of, dear to him. Yeah. If you have siblings, right, you may know. You can be very open with siblings. I don't have any idea because I'm an only child. Yeah. Do you have siblings, Reverends? All of you? Yeah. Then you may know you have a good relationship with them. Yeah. Then right? You can be very open to siblings, right? I mean, most of the time, yes. So then you can see that with Darcy's character. He's very open to his sister. Yeah. And then when, can you remember that scene is very beautiful? Yeah, Elizabeth is kind of sneaking in, and then Darcy sees her. And then what does she do? She runs, exactly, very good. So, what is it symbolic of, Reverend? Her running? Initially, she was running from Collins, from marriage, exactly, very good. And then, now she's running from what? Yeah, to hide her emotions. Yeah, can be shy as well.
Even she didn't talk much with she left.
Exactly, yes.
Now,
so
because of she knows about the
whole story. Yeah, and also she was caught red-handed there. Yeah, and also she's running from of whom, Reverend?
that one also because
Yeah.
she don't know that one is
Sister. Yeah, can be exactly jealousy. And also the fact that even though he's his sister, right? And the fact that he's close with his sister and not close with anyone else. Yeah, maybe. Yeah. And also reference, as in, you can write a research paper, maybe I will write one. Right? Yeah, I'm kind of thinking about it when I'm discussing it, because there are so many symbols here. The symbol of running in Pride and Prejudice movie, you can write a whole research paper about this idea of running. Maybe here you can say that she's running from wealth, right? So now she has identified Darcy to be kind of so much wealthy than she even thought of. So much wealthy than Bingley, maybe the richest man the Bennet family could ever come across. But she's running from it. Yeah, she doesn't even want to meet Darcy there. She's trying to run, but she forgets that this is his house and he knows the paths and all. Where to find her? But again, that shows the character or the true qualities of Elizabeth. Even after knowing that Darcy is wealthy, which is like the requirement for marriage, and now she knows that he's not this person that whom she thought. The prejudices are kind of like almost gone now, but again she doesn't want to, right? Yeah, get married.
Yes, at that scene we can see another thing, how much Darcy affected by Elizabeth.
Exactly,
Though
Reverend.
Elizabeth was playing piano, we can hear same tune is there.
Yes, Reverend, that is a very good observation.
There before one we see as he didn't notice Elizabeth was
Yeah.
playing. He left away.
Exactly.
But you can see that scene, same tune. He maybe teach to his sister.
Yes, exactly. It's a very good observation. Because when we watch movies, most of the time audience fails to kind of pay attention to the symbol of music, unless it is a musical movie. There are this category of musical movies. Yeah, maybe Sound of Music. Yeah, such movies are there, and most of the time we forget. But that is a very good observation. Yeah, how
Darcy's
music.
sister also explained to Elizabeth how
Yeah.
much he told about her.
Yeah, sister says that. I was going to talk about it. Sister says that I know so much about you, right? Yeah.
Even though we never met before,
We are like friends, yeah. So that speaks volumes, right? That speaks a lot about how Darcy is affected, as you said, by Elizabeth. Yeah, and it is almost like that music is played inside his mind. That music can also be symbolic of Elizabeth. Yeah, his feelings towards Elizabeth. Yeah, so it's a very beautiful movie in terms of symbols. Yeah. And then also, when they meet and when they converse, Elizabeth says, I'm very fond of walking. And what is Darcy's reply there? He just 3 words. Very, very strong 3 words. Again, that is very symbolic. Yeah, that is okay. Even I remember because I have jotted this, otherwise I won't remember all the dialogues. He says, yes, I know. Right? So only those 3 words. Yeah. For a man like Darcy, yeah. For a man like Darcy, it is something very kind of specific, because he doesn't talk much. He's not going to say, I'm not going to limit your freedom and use so many words. But with those 3 simple words, what he says is, what he conveys, I'm not going to limit your freedom. Yes, I know, because walking is, it is not something very suitable for a lady back then. Walking, running, and all the things that she does. So walking is symbolic of her independence there, because he has met her in the rain, and also she has walked all the way from her house without a cart, without a horse cart. She comes there drenched in mud. Can you remember? Yeah, so all these things. And then and also, yeah, the fact that we discussed, he told so much about you, we are not going to discuss about it again, with his sister. And also what happens to Lydia, reverence, can you remember that both of them are blaming themselves for what happened to Lydia. Lydia means this younger sister. He has, that she has run away with Wickham. Yeah, so then Elizabeth is blaming herself, because I could have, protected her. I could have been more open with her. Yeah, and then Darcy, what does Darcy do? Darcy is also blaming himself. Says, I would have been kind of careful about it. And then that fact also speaks volumes about their characters, how they are considerate about other people, not about each other, but others, right? Yeah. So then who are kind of close to them, and also other people. So that means they are like very good characters inherently, but that is not shown specifically when it comes to Darcy. Yeah, so they are taking the blame. And can you remember this idea of fallen sister? It is almost like fallen angel. Fallen means when you are kind of, dishonored. Yeah, then, all the family is ruined. That is the idea. So if this message is kind of, spread, that Lydia has run away, so she is identified to be a fallen girl. Yeah, fallen lady, as in fallen from the high status. Then, no marriages for the whole family, right? So that is the idea. That was the ideology during that time. And then also how mother's attitude changes, can you remember? Yeah, it is very funny, very ironic. So mother is very gross and very cross about everything what happened, what has Lydia done, right? So none of these daughters would be able to get married. And then when the news of marriage comes, she's elated, right? Yeah, so she forgets all these then.
When she yeah 1,500.
Yes, exactly.
That was free.
Yeah.
Then she become
Yeah,
very
very happy. So you can see how ironic is that, right? Yeah, the mindset of those people. And also, can you remember when Bingley comes back, what were they doing? Were they kind of very ladylike? No, right? So the mother was kind of, on the sofa eating something, right? Not in a ladylike manner. And the girls were just, just hanging around the place. And when Bingley comes, within 5 seconds, everything is changed. They're sitting very properly like this, right? Yeah, so you can see how attitude changes. How fake is that society? Right? That is a symbol. Despite being very humorous and sarcastic, that is a very harsh criticism on the society. How they were expected not to behave naturally. Yeah, and that contrasts when Bingley comes again. They are very natural at that time. So they are not kind of, there's no time to pretend. Yeah, so you can see both of the parties are being very natural at that moment. Even the first occurrence, is Bingley able to convey his emotions? No, right? Yeah, so he just goes away after greeting. And then you can see even Jane is not much affected. Jane is okay of being kind of distant, okay about, him not asking her hand. So she has already kind of made up her mind. And then, not very ladylike, yeah. And then how Darcy literally molds and guides Bingley, can you remember? So despite Bingley being this extrovert, outgoing person, and Darcy being the introvert, but Darcy is very intellectual there, you can see. So Bingley is like very much kind of, he's not very serious about life. And Darcy is the one who makes him kind of seriously think about Jane. So he literally advises. Can you remember Bingley being nervous and walking here and there, unable to express it? And then Darcy directs him as this, as literally counseling. That's why I told you this is a very psychological novel. Yeah. And yes, and also yeah, next time both parties are natural, we discussed about it. And even later, even after Elizabeth knows everything about Darcy, what has he done for Lydia, because he's the one who has forced to get married, and also he's the one who has paid for the wedding and settled the income of this man. So then Lydia is safe financially. And also in terms of Bingley and Jane, he is the one who kind of mediates literally. But even after that, Elizabeth doesn't want to go after Darcy. She once asks, when do you leave? And he says, tomorrow or something. But then she's not kind of, going after him. Now she has realized that she's in love with Darcy, desperately in love with Darcy. So that is like the deepest love story that we have. And the most desperate one, not like Bingley's and Jane's or Lydia's and Wickham's. Just an attraction. What happens with Lydia, and for Lydia it is attraction, and for Wickham it is just making use of the opportunity. Yeah. And then for Bingley and Jane, in terms of Bingley, yes, it is kind of like, it is not exactly love, but it is like, he feels kind of it is because he has to do that as a duty, because he has given hopes to Jane. Yeah. And for Jane, in a way, she loves Bingley, but the initial route is, well, I told you, if he's a beggar, she won't get married to Bingley. But then when it comes to Elizabeth, it is very deep, the love that she has, but she's not going after him. It is Darcy who comes to her, right? Yeah. And then when it comes to Lady Catherine, what does she do, Reverence? She comes at night, this, yeah, very boisterous lady. Yeah. Yes, yes. Yeah. So then his aunt, literally. Yeah. So then she's very, demanding, very domineering, and insults, very insulting, right? Exactly, right? So she has learned her lesson. You feel very happy when that happens, right? Yeah. And she calls Elizabeth as a lady, not a lady, as a woman of inferior birth. Can you remember, literally? And then you can see this true gentleman, Darcy, there, right? So she almost says this lie that her daughter, the sick one, is engaged to Darcy, which is a big white lie, right? So she just wants to kind of keep Darcy, and maybe she has plans to make Darcy married to her daughter. But there you can see how Darcy apologizes, right, about all this behavior. And there also you can see at night Elizabeth promises that, no, I won't get married to him. Yeah. So that means she doesn't want to go after him. She accepts Darcy because he comes to her. Yeah, not that she goes after him. You can see how genuine is her character. Not after wealth, not after the man. She has this love, now she's keeping it to herself. And then she says, like, and even when it comes to Darcy, can you remember the words that he utters there? My feelings have not changed, right? I don't know whether your feelings have changed or not, but one word from you would silence me forever. There you find this idea of true gentleman, because Darcy is not the gentleman, the ideal gentleman. Even in the beginning, if we have time today, I couldn't even give you this interval. Right? You're talking about the movie, but if you want, you can have it now, Reverence. What do you think? Yeah, you can discuss and let me know. The break? I couldn't give you the break. I was so obsessed with the movie. No need, right? Just 30 minutes now. So then you can come later and sign there, Reverence, right? I couldn't bring the signing sheet. I will place a signing sheet in the office, because I have exam duty from 12, because there's something happening this hotel school people. Yeah. Okay. So then we will discuss the movie, and if time permits, we will start chapter 3. Yeah. And then yes, so this idea, one word from you will silence me forever. So that shows this gentleman's character, right? He's not going to force her. He could have, with his money, with his power, he can literally force Elizabeth and Elizabeth's family to, for a marriage. He can do that. He has the ability, but he doesn't do that without Elizabeth's consent. And also, not just, not a very kind of a general statement, would silence me forever until eternity. So it's like, I'm not going to bother you ever again. This is the last time. Yeah. And then again, you can see how Elizabeth is not expressing it with words, right? So you can see Elizabeth, who's like very wordy. You can see a role reversal there, right? Yeah, she just does this gesture of kissing his hand, not kind of expressing it via words, not even a yes, as far as I remember. She just says, well then, that's it, right? Yeah, so Darcy starts to speak and Elizabeth starts to learn to be silent. Yeah, it's not like, this idea of that women are silenced after marriage, not that idea, but you can see how they acknowledge each other's personalities, maybe, right? Yeah, so it's like that kind of a, I would say, not a combination exactly, but how they kind of transfer each other's personality, right? Yeah. And then she acknowledges with her father that she has always misjudged Darcy, right? Yeah. And also the father is very much considerate there. Can you remember that? What does he say, reverence, about Darcy? Father? He says, can you remember that he says, he's very rich, you would have better, privileges than Jane, but will you be happy? So you can see that a kind of an ideal father, right? So he would have been happy because the daughter got an extremely rich man, but that is not the concern. He's asking whether you will be happy with Darcy, because he knows that Darcy is kind of, very popular as this very proud, arrogant, snobbish man. And also, Elizabeth is very famous for hating him, even in the family. So he knows that. And then only Elizabeth says, no, I have misjudged him. I had this prejudice. And then father also kind of, starts worrying about I should pay back him. And then Elizabeth says, no, he doesn't want anyone to know. And again speaks volumes of Darcy's character. Because have you seen, there are all these, some wealthy people, as in extremely wealthy people, and actors and actresses, celebrities, they do all these donations with the, all the limelight, with cameras on. Yeah, helping people but with cameras, right? Yeah, showing that off. But Darcy is not such a character. He doesn't, yeah. And at the end, can you remember? He has this hearty laugh, and then after that, he cries. Yeah, okay. Yeah, so that's it about the movie, Reverend. And also you can see that towards the end, right, the wedding is not shown. Yeah, again you can take it as a symbol, right? Because Elizabeth and Darcy, they were not interested in all these, outward things. Yeah, materialistic things, outward things. Maybe that's why the wedding is not shown. Yeah. Yeah, can be in a way, Reverend, yes, because their marriage was not based on, as in their union was not based on something, materialistic, not about class, because, in terms of class, that is like a dishonor to Darcy to get married to someone of a lower birth, of a lower rank, but he does that. And also in terms of wealth, and Elizabeth is not kind of, considerate about his wealth. I told you, even if Darcy was a beggar the next day, yeah, she would accept him. Something like that. Right. Okay. So then that was about the movie. Shall we move to the book as well? We can start the 3rd chapter. And this Friday, yeah.
I like her father character.
Ah, yes. Yes, Reverend.
Father.
Yes, the father is like a very kind of an ideal father, I would say. Yeah, during that time, a very strange sort of a father.
If he was not like that, nothing will happen.
Exactly. If he didn't give the consent, right? So, and also he was expected to give the consent because the man is rich, Reverend. But he was worried whether Elizabeth would be happy, no matter how rich the man is, because he didn't know Darcy earlier. Yeah. So very good character portrayal, and even when it comes to the cast of the movie, perfect casting, right? All the actors, they have done kind of, their full potential is given to the movie. Yeah, they have done wonders there. Yes. Okay, so we will start this chapter 3. Okay, so can one of you read the first paragraph, Reverence? Not know all that, Mrs. Bennet. Chapter 3, the beginning. Yeah. You were discussing who's going to volunteer. Okay. Right.
Not all that Mrs. Bennet, however, with the assistance of her 5 daughters, put us on the subject was sufficient to draw from her husband any satisfactory description of Mr. Bingley. They attacked him in various ways with barefaced questions, ingenious
Suppositions.
and distant surmise, but he eluded the scale of them more, and they were at last obligated to accept the second-hand intelligence of their neighbors. Lady Lucas, her report was highly favorable. Sir William had been delighted with him. He was quite young, wonderfully handsome, extremely agreeable, and to crown the whole, he meant to be at the next assembly with a large party. Nothing could be more delightful to be found of. Dancing was a certain step towards falling in love, and very lively hopes of Mr. Bingley's heart were entertained.
Right. Okay, Reverence, we will discuss that. Yeah, so here you can see that Mr. Bennet has gone to visit Mr. Bingley at this point, and Mrs. Bennet and the daughters, they want to kind of, draw the details, about his looks, and, how was the encounter, all these things. And in this chapter you get this clear picture about the different classes, different status, as in, the wealthy upper class, where Bingley and Darcy belong, and then less wealthy country gentry, Bennets, yeah, and also this Lady Lucas and all. And yeah, so they attacked him in various ways. So barefaced questions. Barefaced means, Reverence, it's like shameless. Yeah, shameless questions. So shameless means, about him and all these things, because they are kind of like digging out details. Yeah. And ingenious means
Good.
yeah, in a way, Reverend, clever. Yeah, kind of a synonym for genius. Ingenious. So there are some words like that, right? Ingenious, and also the word invaluable. Invaluable again refers to being valuable, being more valuable, but then one can feel that it refers to, yeah, not valuable, something like that. Genius, ingenious. And then suppositions means,
Idea.
yeah, in a way, ideas and more like beliefs.
Belief.
Yeah, beliefs. You believe something to be true, you do not know whether it is true or not. And then distant surmises means, it is like supposing, yeah, very good, guessers. Supposing that something is true but without evidence. Yeah, guessing without evidence. It's like they are kind of guessing how are his looks, whether he's handsome, because there was no social media that people could log into Instagram and find the profile and check for the looks. Yes. But he eluded the skill of them all. Eluded means?
Avoid.
Yeah, avoided, escaped. And then they were at last obliged to accept the second-hand intelligence of their neighbor, Lady Lucas. So the father is not kind of, he's not much into gossip. He's not kind of, revealing all the details. But this Lady Lucas does. So that may be a criticism of, the nature of women back then. Because there's this idea that women are more, willing to gossip. Yeah, again can be a misconception. To talk about gossip, Lady Lucas can be kind of, symbolic of that idea. Can be a criticism of the women. Yeah, because Austen was very critical about the typical women. Yeah. And then her report was highly favorable. That means it was like a very good, very good report. And then Sir William had been delighted with him. He was quite young. So you can see he's not a very mature person, and you can see it throughout the movie. Even, right? As in Bingley's character is not developed or designed. Both developed and designed as a very mature character. Yeah. Not very serious at all. Even at the time of his proposal, it is Darcy who literally forces Bingley to go and propose, right? Otherwise, he would not have done it. Yeah, Jane would be still unmarried. And then wonderfully handsome. So, ideal gentleman. Quite young, wonderfully handsome, extremely agreeable, easy to get with, right? And then, as in easy to interact, and to crown the whole, here Austen is being very ironic and sarcastic. So these are like the characteristics, and then to crown everything, and top of everything, he meant to be at the next assembly with a large party. So that indicates he is very sociable. Yeah, not antisocial as Darcy. So when it comes to the psychological characteristics, you can talk about being sociable and also antisocial, referring to Bingley's character. Bingley is very sociable. And nothing could be more delightful. To be fond of dancing was a certain step towards falling in love. And here you can see, because dancing or dancers, these ballroom dances were the way for people to mingle. Specifically opposite genders to mingle. That's why she's very ironically saying dancing was a certain step towards falling in love. Nothing else. The character looks nothing, but this idea. And very lively hopes of Mr. Bingley's heart were entertained. So then Mr. Bingley's heart would be this holy place. It would be very pure, it would be very good. So there are so many hopes revolving around him. Yeah. Shall we read the next two parts, Reverence? If I can, up to Black Force.
If I can see one of my daughters happily settled at Netherfield, said Mrs. Bennet to her husband, and all the others equally well married, I shall have nothing to wish for. In a few days, Mr. Bingley returned Mr. Bennet's visit, and sat about 10 minutes with him in his library. He had entertained hopes of being admitted to a sight of the young ladies, of whose beauty he had heard much, but he saw only the father. The ladies were somewhat more fortunate, for they had that advantage of
ascertaining
from an upper window that he wore a blue coat and rode a black horse.
Okay, Reverend, thank you. Right, so here you can see Mrs. Bennet is being very direct. If I can but see one of my daughters happily settled at Netherfield. So the only concern in her life, right? And all the others equally well married. So she is not going to rest until this happens, right? All the daughters. And even at the end of the book, are all the daughters married, Reverends? No. Again, you can see, right? Austen is being very kind of symbolic about that as well. So marriage is not the only answer, maybe that idea. There's far better things than marriage, because if she considered marriage to be the ideal kind of point, she would have at the climax, yeah, got married all the 5 daughters, but that doesn't happen. And also one marriage is like an elopement, she's literally eloped, and the other is Darcy is forcing Bingley to get married. The only true marriage, only true union is between Elizabeth and Darcy, and that is also kind of unpredictable and also not expected towards the end. So you can say different versions of marriage.
Unprecedented marriage.
Exactly, Reverend. Yeah. So then you can see even Mrs. Bennet, they were not expecting it at all. Yeah. Okay. And then yes. So she says, I shall have nothing to wish for. But even the climax, even at the ending of the book, that is not settled. And in a few days, Mr. Bingley returned Mr. Bennet's visit. So this was like a social custom, reverence, right? So when you visit one person's house, then that person, whether he likes it or not, he has to visit back, return the visit. So kind of a social custom. So nowadays it is not like that, right? Even when a person wants to kind of visit a place, they just go, and then if the other person has the time, whenever he has the time, he comes. But it is not like that. It has to be done. It is kind of compulsory to return the visit. And sat about 10 minutes with him in his library. So you can see it was not a very kind of a deep bond that happened between, I would say, Bingley and Mr. Bennet. Just something very formal. Just 10 minutes. Yeah, so it's like, that if people kind of get together well, so they can talk for a long time, but it's not like that, just 10 minutes. And also in his library, he had entertained hopes of being admitted to a sight of the young ladies. So he thought he would be able to see the young ladies, right? Yeah. And also he says, of whose beauty he had heard much. So there are all these rumors, right? The gossip. So I don't think it is like just 2 weeks even after he has come and settled in this place, right? But then again you can see how these people, as in this society works, right? How people are forced to spread all these things. And do you think this is kind of an idea of marriage, reverence, at this point in terms of Bingley? When it comes to Bingley, do you think he has hopes to get married to one of these daughters? Bennet's family, of course they have these hopes, but in terms of Bingley, no, and I don't think his family would ever agree to the marriage. And also, even when it comes to Bingley, it is just like looking at a beautiful lady and time passing. Literally that. He has heard about the beauty of these girls, but he doesn't have this idea of getting married to one of them, not at all. He just wants to maybe kind of time pass, to look at them, to please the eye. That's it, I guess. Yeah. But he saw only the father. So what Austin is being very sarcastic here, you can see. Maybe you can be questioned on the utilization of sarcasm. Yeah, in Pride and Prejudice as well. Yes. And and here what is the idea, reverence? Only the father is shown, not the daughters. It is literally like, what do you think about that? Why are the daughters hidden? Because the mother wants, so much to give one of, the daughters.
Father, he don't want maybe.
Maybe, yes, Reverend. Maybe father didn't want, to throw the daughters.
Father is the most responsible person for marriage.
Exactly. Yeah, can be. Yeah, yes, exactly, Reverend. Very good. Maybe father represents the whole family, but he wants to kind of, look at the daughters, but that is not maybe allowed. And also because this is the first visit, and can you remember that we discussed about ballroom dancing? That is the place where social gatherings happen, where the opposite genders could meet. Yeah.
This scene, this father, he want to try to guess
Yes.
Bingley.
Exactly.
Try to
Yeah.
discourage him.
Yeah, to identify the character of the man. Yeah, whether he's a womanizer or not, whether he wants to kind of, look at the daughters. Yeah, exactly, can be. Very good observation. Yes, Reverend, yeah. All the three observations were good. And also, it is like, and also, Reverends, this idea of showing the value by hiding, literally, Ganangusana, that idea, right? Yeah. So they're showing the value.
Try to
Get the attention, not being exposed, right? So I'm this respected, that idea, we are respected ladies, so we are not coming out. And he's curious, so if they were there, right, he won't be curious. Yeah, so he has heard about the beauty of these daughters, but he's not given a sight. Yeah. So on one hand can be, this idea that you said, one of the very good observations about, father's responsibility. Yeah, father being responsible, and also father is representing the family, another very good observation. So all these can be true. And also that they want to show their value to Bingley. But then when it comes to daughters, the ladies were somewhat more fortunate. Here fortunate means literally lucky. Yeah, lucky, Reverend. They were lucky. Why? She's been very sarcastic here. Yeah, so fortune, the word fortune can be confused here. Fortune is usually referred to wealth, but here the idea is lucky. They are being very lucky there. Why? Because they had the advantage of ascertaining from an upper window. Ascertaining means like finding out details. Yeah, discovering. Yeah, discovering more details, or finding out more details from an upper window. So there you can see, right? They are very much interested, but they want to, show their value by not appearing. Yes. And then he wore a blue coat and rode a black horse. What is the idea, Reverend? Blue coat.
basically color for men.
Yes, exactly. Yes. And also blue. Blue is symbolic of. Have you seen these royal gatherings of, can be of Queen Elizabeth?
Rich men.
Yeah, blue and purple. They are considered to be royal colors. Yeah, even there are these color codes like navy blue, royal blue. Yeah, so it's like, yeah, kind of class markers, Reverence. Black represents, yeah, very good. Rich and also, yeah, exactly a class marker. Both the blue coat and this dark horse, at the first kind of guess, it is, they are used as class markers to show his class, the upper wealthy class. And also blue coat, yeah, can be again a class marker of this, idea of not royalty but almost like royal. Yeah, wealthy upper class. But black horse,
Black horse can symbolize strength, power, courage, independence.
Mm. Yeah, all that.
All
All that. So here we can take not wisdom, right, with Bingley. Yeah, but you can take all the other, right, other characteristics, other symbols. Can be power, right? Yeah, independence, class, upper class. Yeah. And also in a way one can argue negativity as well. Yeah, even though it is not very apparent in this context. Bingley is not a very kind of a bad character. He's not opportunistic in a way, but in a way also one can argue that he was opportunistic. He gave hopes to Jane, and then he just kind of, he ran away from the scenario. If Darcy was not there, still Jane would be unmarried, even to the date 23rd of February. Yeah. Okay then. So it's almost 11:30, Reverends. We will stop here. Yeah. So any other questions? We would be able to finish this one. Yeah, this Friday. We will finish Pride and Prejudice this Friday, and meanwhile you may try to find Great Expectations, reference. Yeah, it's going to be your next book.
Yes. Can we get this book from that bookshop
Yes, Reverend.
you mentioned before? That bookshop, can we get this book?
Yes, Expographic. You would be able to, Reverend. It will be kind of expensive, I guess. Maybe around $2,000, I would say. Yeah, okay, right? Yeah,
Well,
if you
before
want to.
go there to get this
Yeah.
book.
You thought of going there. It is a very nice place. Maybe you can go together. Yeah, it's there in Batrul. He doesn't know about your plan. Yeah, if you want, you can get the book. As in, you do not have to have the book, reference, right? I'm not asking you to buy the book, right? If you like, you can. It is good to have kind of, mini library. You can collect the books and have them.
We have to return.
I know. So you can have your own mini library. Yeah, you have to return the book. But maybe you can kind of renew it as well, Reverend, right? It is not come. Yeah, you can renew, but you like to have the book. Okay.
We need to mark
I know. But to have the chapters, you are only asked to, as in you can buy it if you like, but you are asked only to refer to these 5 chapters in the examination, not the whole book. You like it, yeah, I understand. It is very difficult not to love Pride and Prejudice. It is a beautiful book. 90 back then, I guess. 2017, yeah. So the price has increased a lot, reverence, yeah, these days. And it is because of this economic crisis that happened. Yeah, I initially wanted to publish one of my books with Vijita Yapa. Then I called them just after the lockdown, and they said no, the printing cost is and it's like very expensive now, and they are unable to publish. They have stopped publishing. Now I think they have kind of back to business. That's it. Okay, reverends, then we will call it a day, and I will keep your sign